The shore temple remained buried under the sand until recently. While the sand has been removed, the presence of the sea right beside it and the constant salt laden winds and water spray still pose a threat. Temple. Well, I think that's why it's so important and has been portrayed as Tamil Nadu's Tableau in the 72nd Republic Day. Let's hear about the Mahabalipuram Show Temple today. Press the bell icon on YouTube and never miss another update. Once the hub of trade and commerce in ancient and early medieval India, Mahabalipuram is now a well-known tourist destination owing to its many heritage structures that fall under the UNESCO group of monuments. Though Mahabalipuram is believed to have been a derivative of the original name Mamallapuram, which means the city of Mamalla, the warrior. Mamalla was a title of the Pallava king Narasimhavarman I, 630 to 70 CE, that is before Christ. It was during his reign that the majority of the heritage structures that we see today in Mamallapuram were made. Mamallapuram became an important commercial center in the 6th century CE during the rule of Pallava king Simhavishnu. This was an era of great political turnings that saw Pallavas competing for power with Pandyas, Cheras, and Cholas, coupling with increasing religious fervor as part of the Bhakti movement under the Alvars, Vaishnava, and Nayanar Shaiva saints. A study of the historical findings from Mamallapuram, which include different archaeological, numismatic, example, Roman coins of Theodosius, 4th century CE, and epigraphical finds show that the town was once a thriving seaport with connections to Sri Lanka, China, and other Southeast Asian countries. Among the textual references are Perplus of the Aegean Sea, 1st century CE, and a Greek navigation book that mentions Mamallapuram, calling it a thriving port, while Ptolemy, 2nd century CE, refers to Mahabalipuram as Malange. Huan Sang, 7th century CE, in his travel records also talks of Mamallapuram, terming it as a Pallava seaport. The Vaishnava saint Tirumangai Alvar, in his work Nalaya Prabandham, 8th century CE, described the bustling town and wrote of the numerous ships anchored in the harbour. Among the most famous landmarks of this once thriving port is the Shore Temple. Marco Polo, in his travel book, mentioned the temple, referring it to as the 7 Pagodas of Mamallapuram, a name which stuck to the cluster of the shore temples among the European traders and cartographers. In 1375, in the Catalan Atlas, Abraham Crescus referred to the temple cluster as Sete Melti, from Sette Templi, which means 7 pagodas in Italian. In 1582, a jewelry merchant named Gasparo Balbi referred to the temple cluster as 7 Chinese pagodas of Mamallapuram. Nicole Manussi wrote of the 7 Chinamen built pagodas. As Polo Balbi, and Manusi had not set their feet in this town and had only seen the temples from a distant ship. The tall pyramidal temple spires had appeared to them as Chinese built pagoda. Interestingly, all medieval European travelers had described 7 short temples in Mamallapuram, while only 2 are now seen. This had led to many speculations over whether these old travelers' accounts were factually correct. However, during the 2004 tsunami, many rock art temples, inscriptions, and sculptures were briefly exposed as the water receded. Later, archaeologists with diving teams explored an underwater site 700 meters east of the shore temple and found ruined walls, sculptures, blocks of rectangular stones laid parallel to the shoreline, and remains of 40 other monuments. From these findings, a new line of thought has developed that believes a part of old Mamallapuram is now under the sea. The shore temple of Mamallapuram was built during the reign of the Pallavan king Rajasimha or Narasimhavarman II, and it is the oldest structural temple of significance in South India. The 2 temples hold 3 sanctums, of which 2 are dedicated to Shiva and 1 to Vishnu. The first thing that catches one's eyes as he or she views the temple from a distance is the low Prakara wall with conchioned Nandis on it, and the tall pyramidal shikaras with their top octagonal domes. These 2 tall shikaras or vimanas have eroded ornamentation that shows similarities with the Pancharathas. However, unlike the Pancharathas, these spires have finales on top marking them as functional temples. The shallow temple mantapas, entry porches, are reached by climbing few stairs, and right beyond the doorway that holds weathered Dwarapalas are the 2 main sanctums. These sanctums show the typical Pallavan feature, Soma Sankanda panel and a fluted Shiva Linga. The smallest sanctum facing west has the Linga missing, while the main sanctum facing east has a broken fluted Linga. Behind the 2 main sanctums stands the 3rd sanctum that has no vimana and holds a small mantapa or porch. In this sanctum can be seen the Shesha of Lord Vishnu. The 5-story temples have been positioned in such a manner that the first rays of the sun fall on the main east-facing fluted lingam. Simhayalis are a regular feature on the outer walls of the temple, though owing to the corrosive soil-laden winds, they are mostly weathered beyond recognition. At the northern side of the temple is a small kund that holds an east-facing miniature shrine. The shrine is dedicated to Shiva, while there is a separate sculpture of a partly damaged Buhu Varaha. The Buhu Varaha has an inscription plate at its base that gives us the titles of the Pallava king Rajasimha. On the southern side of the temple facing west is a large monolithic lion, often termed as the Durga's lion, as the Devi is seen sitting on its right hind leg, holding a bow in her hand. The lion's chest has been cut to form a deep square niche, inside which we see Devi Durga as Mahishasura Near the pedestal is a beautiful carved figure of couching deer which is now headless. The entrance walls of temple hold many carved panels, some of which show scenes from the Pallavan history, while others depict Shiva in his various forms, such as Tripotaka, Kirti Arjuna, Dakshinamurti, etc. The other walls have inscriptions from the Pallava and Chola eras that praise King Narasimhavarman too and names the deities inside. The Shore temple remained buried under the sand until recently, while the sand has been removed. The presence of the sea right beside it and the constant salt-laden winds and water spray still pose a threat to the temple. To tackle this, the ASI has built a breakwater wall and planted Kausarian trees to prevent further erosion.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit, I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit, I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit, I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative when you should be getting after it. I got facts over tracks. This and that, spitting slow, speaking fast. I could roast, I could gas, think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past and the pettiness. A reflection of the emptiness, hilarious. You think you're worth my time, you're delirious, mysterious because you hide behind a fake exterior, inferior. You know I'll always be a bit superior. Get off of me, this ain't no humble brag. I want you to hear words, you can say them back. I want you to feel free from the chains that last and to believe them.
If you haven't pressed the bell icon, press it now, and we would love to know your feedback in the comment section below. Till then, love.